A very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News here on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tracy Shilshi and I'll be getting you all the day's top stories and a close eye on Chennai. Let's first get you the headlines. It's the worst rains in 100 years, bringing life to a standstill in Tamil Nadu. Chennai airport is shut down. Army are carrying out relief work and Prime Minister assures all possible central assistance. Prime Minister Narendra Modi terms any atrocity a blot on society during reply in Rajya Sabha. In the Lok Sabha, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi says the government is trying to silence dissent. The President calls for a cleanliness campaign, but for the mind, says India and Indians need to get rid of divisive tendencies. The RBI keeps interest rates intact in its monetary policy. The central bank is to watch inflationary trends before announcing its next step. And Britain's parliament is set to vote to approve air strikes against the Islamic State militants in Syria. Prime Minister Cameron is confident of a win and the opposition allows free voting. Our top story, there's no respite from the rain fury in Tamil Nadu. Fresh spells of rain brought life to a standstill in Chennai for the second time in less than a month. Large parts of the city are inundated, forcing authorities to issue a flood alert. And amid the worsening situation, the army has now been pressed into service to carry out rescue and relief work.
The northeast monsoon has washed away a 100-year record in Tamil Nadu. Heavy spells of rain over the last 2 days have pounded Chennai for the second time since November, throwing normal life out of gear. On Tuesday alone, the city received 12 centimeters of rainfall, triggering a flood alert.
வெளியே வர முடியல ஃபுல்லா தண்ணி எங்க வந்தாலும் வண்டி எடுத்துட்டு எங்கயும் போக முடியல கடைக்கு சாப்பிட போக முடியல வெளியே வர முடியல கரண்ட் இல்ல முக்கியமான ரீசன் கரண்ட் இல்லாதனால ஒண்ணுமே பண்ண முடியல சென்னையில
எங்கனா ரோடு கிளியரா இல்ல தண்ணி வர சைடு பாதாள சார் வந்து அது ஒன்றும் இதுவா பண்ணல ரொம்ப இதுவா இருக்குது ஆனா பாவம் இப்ப நாங்களா பரவாயில்ல ரோடு மக்கள்லாம் வந்து ரொம்ப கஷ்டம்.
Fresh showers on Monday and Tuesday left half the city marooned and the other half virtually submerged. Schools and colleges were closed, factories downed their shutters, power supply was suspended, and hospitals overflowed with patients and water. All flight operations at the Chennai airport have been suspended until further orders after the runway was flooded. Train operations were also badly affected, with more than 30 trains being cancelled and many diverted.
There are two sections which are badly affected. One is Chennai-Egmore-Vilupuram section and the other is Chennai Central Gudur section. So because of these two sections getting affected, the train operations are badly affected. The trains we had to cancel certain trains. I will appeal through you to the passengers that they should check the status of their trains.
2 columns of the Army's Garrison Infantry Battalion were pressed into service in Tambaram and Urapakkam on Tuesday after the state government sought military assistance. The Navy has also been put on standby. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called up Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha and assured all necessary support in rescue, relief and restoration operations. Showers also lashed Tamil Nadu's northern districts and areas in Puducherry, leaving large parts inundated. The Met Department says the worst is not over yet. More rains have been predicted in the region over the next 3 days.
It is likely to rain in most places in the coastal districts and at many places in the interior districts. 1 or 2 places in the coastal districts may experience heavy to very heavy rainfall. 1 or 2 places in the interior districts may experience heavy rainfall. As far as Chennai city is concerned, cloudy, few spells of rain, heavy at times.
Incessant rains in Tamil Nadu have claimed 188 lives so far. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And let's get a sense of how things stand this morning. We are joined by Suresh Babu, who's a journalist based in Chennai, joining us, in fact, on the phone line from there. Suresh, thanks so much for speaking here with us. If you could give us an update on how things stand, because as far as the airport's concerned, just about 12 hours now that it's been on a shutdown mode. Can you give us an update on how things stand?
Prasi, the rainfall in Chennai and suburbs of Chennai is hectic. And the downpour is about 20 centimeters rainfall in 14 hours, reported from yesterday 8:30 a.m. residents in southern suburbs like Tambaram and Mudichur in Chennai are deeply affected, and the airport has already been shut down. The Chief Minister Jayalalitha has deputed senior ministers O. Pannirselvam, Nathan Vishwanathan, Palaniswamy and Palaniappan to oversee the operations in the 4 districts. The power also has been suspended. Several IT companies have shut down and asked their employees to work from home. 4 NDRF teams have already reached Chennai and they are deployed to save the people, rescue the people. 5 more teams are to be arrived. Once the airport is normal, and they will be airlifted. There will be about 450 NDRF teams deployed today to oversee the affected areas.
All right.
Army and the Navy are also deployed. Prime Minister Modi had called Chief Minister Jayalalitha and promised all necessary support, the rescue, relief and restoration efforts.
All right. Suresh, also, apart from the fact that there's a heavy rain forecast as well for the next 3 to 4 days, I'm also reading that, 20,000 cubic feet of water from the Chembarambakam reservoir is also being released, and that is also adding to more trouble for the residents.
The most trouble for the Chennai and suburb residents is the overflow of water from Chembarambakam, the Chembarambakam lake, which is full now. That is left inside the city, and the suburbs like Tambaram are all affected.
Okay.
All the lakes in and around Chennai and lakes in Tiruvallur districts, in Chengalpet and Viluppuram are full.
All right. All of them overflowing, and this is, of course, causing further problems for Chennai and the entire state of Tamil Nadu, which is, of course, facing the worst floods that it's seen in the past 100 years. Thanks so much, Suresh, for joining us and giving us an update on how things stand in Chennai for the moment. We'll keep an eye out on developments there. But now heading on to some politics and his reply to the discussion on commitment to the Constitution in the Upper House on Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi termed any atrocity as a blot on society and the nation. He also urged greater focus on unity and social equality and termed the Constitution as the guiding light for everyone. Here's a report.
After 3 days of discussion that saw many members raising the issue of intolerance, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's reply in the Rajya Sabha on Tuesday also addressed the issue.
सिर्फ बंधारण की सीमाओं में नहीं, समाज जागरूक भी कि उतना ही अनिवार्य है। ना हिंदू पति तो भवेत, इस संकल्प को लेकर के आगे बढ़ने की आवश्यकता है। और ये बात इस सदन से उठनी चाहिए, ये बात सदन से पहुंचनी चाहिए। आज भी समाज में किसी के साथ इस प्रकार का अत्याचार अनाचार होता है तो ये हमारे लिए कलंक है, एक समाज के नाते कलंक है, एक देश के नाते कलंक है।
Responding to the charge of appropriation of legacies, Prime Minister said everyone played an important part in making of the Constitution.
ये कार्यक्रम अपने आप में उन सभी ऋषियों को जो कि संविधान सभा में बैठे थे उनको नमन करने के लिए बनाया है, उनका आदर करने के लिए बनाया है। लेकिन करने का इरादा ये है कि इस राष्ट्र को आने वाले शतकों तक दिशा देने के लिए जिन महापुरुषों ने काम किया है, हमारी आगे वाली पीढ़ी जाने तो, समझे तो। और इसलिए उसमें मेरी पार्टी का कोई सदस्य होता तभी मैं याद करूं, ऐसे देश नहीं चलता है।
Quoting the first Prime Minister Pandit Nehru, Modi also reiterated the importance of coordination between both houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha.
हमारे संविधान का सफल क्रियान्वयन किसी भी लोकतांत्रिक संरचना की भांति दोनों सदनों के बीच आपसी सहयोग पर निर्भर करता है। और इसलिए हमारे लिए आवश्यक बन जाता है कि हम किस प्रकार से मिलजुल करके इस बात को आगे चलाएं।
The Prime Minister also emphasized the need to stay united and ensure social equality. Vishal Daya for Rajya Sabha Television, Delhi.
And the government has categorically denied that intolerance is on the rise in the country. Replying to a debate on the issue in Lok Sabha, Home Minister Rajnath Singh called the protests against intolerance fabricated. He called out to intellectuals, saying that the government was willing to listen to their problems. But during the debate, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi accused the government of ignoring all voices of dissent And dissatisfied with the Home Minister's reply, several opposition MPs walked out of the House.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh said in Lok Sabha on Tuesday that those who say that intolerance is on the rise in the country are actually doing the nation a lot of harm. He in fact termed this issue and award wapsi as fabricated. Rajnath Singh accused those who are returning awards of politicizing the issue.
विषय तो बहुत गंभीर है, लेकिन आरोप लगाने वालों से मैं कहना चाहता हूं, विचार करिए। यह विषय आत्मघाती है और मैं समझता हूं देश के लिए आत्मघाती है। मैं अपील करना चाहता हूं कि ऐसे बयानों से हम लोगों को बचना चाहिए।
The Home Minister also defended the Prime Minister's silence on the issue, saying Modi did not need to speak on everything. Rajnath also had a defense ready for irresponsible statements made by his cabinet colleagues and some BJP leaders.
उन्होंने अपना क्लैरिफिकेशन दे दिया, उसके बाद भी बार-बार ये कहना कि उन्होंने ऐसे अपशब्दों का प्रयोग कर दिया, ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया। मैं समझता हूं ये न तो इस सरकार के साथ न्याय है अध्यक्ष महोदय और न तो यह देश के साथ यह न्याय है।
Participating in the debate, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi accused the government of staying mum on the issue of intolerance. He also accused the Prime Minister of protecting his minister, General VK Singh, contending that the government was trying to silence dissenters.
Pansare ji and Kalburgi ji are shot dead in cold blood by fanatics. The Prime Minister has nothing to say. Nothing to say.
If my children do something wrong, if I participate, उस कृति में सहभाग ले रही हूँ। अगर सहभाग भी नहीं दे रही हूँ, कुछ बोलूँ नहीं, तो उसको कहते हैं अनुमोदन कर रही हूँ। और अगर मैं मौन रखूँ, तो भी आप बोलेंगे गलती तुम्हारी है, तुम माँ हो, तुमने कुछ क्यों नहीं कहा? Sir, this is my objection to the government.
As Rajnath Singh gave his reply in the House, MPs of the Congress and left parties walked out of the House along with other opposition members. With Pranav Goswami, Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And in the middle of a raging debate on perceived intolerance in the country, President Pranab Mukherjee has once again delivered a sharp message on the issue. This time, he said that the real dirt of India lies in the minds of its people and not on the streets. He also called out to all Indians, asking them to cleanse their minds of divisive thoughts.
The real dirt of India lies not in our streets, but in our minds, and in our unwillingness to let go of views that divide society into them and us.
It is important for Indians to cleanse their minds of divisive thoughts. That's the message sent out by the President. Citing Gandhiji's vision of India as an inclusive nation, he said the essence of being human was our trust of each other.
Every day we see unprecedented violence all around us. At the heart of this violence is darkness, fear, and mistrust. While we invent new modes of combating this ever-spiraling violence, we must not forget the power of non-violence, dialogue, and reason.
This is not the first time the President has spoken about intolerance in the country after the Dadri lynching and other such incidents. Exhorting the father of the nation once again, the President said he gave us an object lesson in ahimsa.
We must free our public discourse of all forms of violence, physical as well as verbal. Only a non-violent society can ensure the participation of all sections of the people, especially the marginalized and the dispossessed in our democratic process.
The President's reminders come in the backdrop of the Parliament also debating the intolerance issue. President Mukherjee was speaking at the inauguration of the Archives and Research Centre at Sabarmati Ashram. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, a quick break here. More national and international news follows in just a bit. Stay with us.
Tales that inspire, stories of social change. A salute to diversity, promoting public discourse. Events that motivate, inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries every Friday at 10:30 p.m, Saturday 12:30 p.m, and Sunday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. Now, counting of votes for the crucial local bodies polls in Gujarat will take place today. The polls are considered a litmus test for the BJP in the backdrop of the Patel quota agitation. Voting for 6 municipal corporations was held on the 26th of November, while that of 31 district panchayats, 230 taluka panchayats and 56 municipalities was held on the 29th of November. Now, the 6 municipal corporations registered only 45% voter turnout, but elsewhere it was over 60%. These are also the first major elections in the state after Chief Minister Anandiben took over from Narendra Modi. The Congress is hoping to make a comeback in the state, cashing in on resentment of the Patel community against the BJP. In fact, Patel leaders who are demanding inclusion in the OBC quota had appealed the community members to vote against the BJP and for the Congress ahead of the elections. In other news, the RBI decided to keep interest rates intact in its monetary policy announcement on Tuesday. The central bank said that it will watch the inflationary trends before making any move. In fact, the RBI Governor Rajya said that the focus on monetary policy will shift towards achieving a consumer inflation target of 5% by March 2017.
The RBI on Tuesday retained the repo rate at which it lends to commercial banks at 6.75%. The cash reserve ratio, funds that banks need to keep with the central bank, was also held steady at 4%. RBI Governor Rajya said the bank will keep an eye on commodity prices, especially food and oil.
We believe its effect on aggregate demand will be offset by appropriate budgetary tightening as the government stays on its fiscal consolidation path.
The central bank cut repo rate by 50 basis points in this last policy review in September. In all, the central bank has cut by 125 basis points this year to spur economic growth. However, retail inflation climbed to a 4-month high of 5% in October as food prices escalated on supply deficiency in pulses.
The only uncomfortable thing is they have insisted there should be control and better monitoring on food items. Basically, this is the only thing which is a matter of concern.
The industry found Rajan's move pragmatic but warned of upcoming fiscal and inflationary pressures after 7th Pay Commission recommendations are implemented.
More than ₹1 lakh crore goes to the Pay Commission while implementing the recommendation of the Pay Commission. Certainly it will put a huge burden on the central government budget, and the state government will be in deep trouble.
The RBI governor noted that second quarter GDP numbers indicate early signs of recovery, but he chose to stick to the earlier projection of 7.4% for the current fiscal. India's gross domestic product for the 3-month period ending September grew 7.4%, slightly higher than the 7% in the previous quarter. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
And now let's take a look at what's likely to make news in the day ahead. President Pranab Mukherjee will address the delegates to the BRICS Emerging Economies University Summit 2015 at Rashtrapati Bhavan. He will also receive the first copy of the Times Higher Education BRICS and Emerging Economies Rankings 2016 on the occasion. Chief Justice of India H.L. Dattu will retire today. Justice T.S. Thakur, the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court, would succeed Dattu as the next Chief Justice of India on the 3rd of December. The Bihar Assembly Speaker will be elected today during the winter session of the State Assembly. Newly elected legislators took oath on Tuesday. The State Governor will address the joint session of the two houses of the State Legislature on the 3rd of December. The winter session will end on the 8th. Chinese President Xi Jinping will head to South Africa today. He will be meeting President Jacob Zuma and later co-chair the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit in Johannesburg. China is Africa's largest trading partner, and the trade volume between them amounted to $220 billion in 2014. International news, and Britain's parliament is set to vote on Wednesday to approve airstrikes against Islamic State militants in Syria after months of wrangling over whether enough opposition Labour lawmakers would back military action. Here's more on the story.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister David Cameron has said he believes British warplanes, which have been bombing Islamic State targets in Iraq for more than a year, should also be tackling the group in Syria rather than subcontract UK security to other countries.
Well, I believe there's growing support across Parliament for the compelling case there is to answer the call from our allies to act against ISIL in Syria and in Iraq. The headquarters, many ways, of the terrorists actually is in Syria, and it makes no sense to recognise this border in the action we take when ISIL themselves don't recognise this border.
By calling the debate this week, it was clear that Cameron was sure he had won over some sceptical members in his own ruling Conservative Party and others in the Labour Party, which is deeply divided on launching strikes.
So it's in the national interest, it's the right thing to do. We'll be acting with our allies. We will be careful and responsible as we do so. But in my view, it's right to do this to help to keep our country safe.
Foreign Minister Philip Hammond is also confident about the government to secure a parliamentary majority in support of launching airstrikes against Islamic State militants in Syria.
During the course of today, there has been, I think, significant progress in the task of building a coalition in Parliament in favour of airstrikes in Syria and ensuring that when it comes to a vote, that coalition is able to find its voice in Parliament.
Meanwhile, thousands of protesters gathered outside the British Parliament on Tuesday night to protest against the possibility of Britain launching airstrikes on Islamic State militants in Syria. The protest was organised by activist group Stop the War Coalition, which was founded in 2001 in efforts to prevent wars in the Middle East following 9/11 attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
US President Barack Obama led calls on Tuesday for Turkey and Russia to end their dispute over the downing of a Russian fighter jet and focus instead on the ISIS, the real enemy.
After talks with Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Paris, Obama reaffirmed US support for Turkey's right to defend itself and its airspace, but he stressed that Russia and Turkey should de-escalate their dispute.
We discussed how Turkey and Russia can work together to de-escalate tensions and find a diplomatic path to resolve this issue. As I mentioned to President Erdogan, we all have a common enemy, and that is ISIL.
Obama added that the US was eager to accelerate work on its military-to-military relationship with Turkey to ensure its NATO ally was safe and to help resolve the conflict in Syria.
We are very much interested in accelerating the work that's been taking place on our military-to-military relationship to ensure that not only Turkey is safe and secure, but also that Syria can finally begin winding down what has been a terribly costly war, and we can focus our attention on ensuring that ISIL is no longer a threat to all of us.
Erdogan, who has demanded that Russian President Vladimir Putin provide evidence to back up charges Ankara trades in oil with IS, said he too was keen to move on.
Meydana gelen gelişmeler bunun bir değerlendirmesini yaptık. Tabii buradaki derdimiz özellikle bu işin diplomatik başlıklar içerisinde, söylem içerisinde nasıl bir neticeye kavuşturulmasıdır. Zira bölgede hakikaten gerilimler bizleri de üzmektedir. Her iki tarafa da bu zarar verir.
Earlier, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu also called for the opening of communication channels between Turkey and Russia to prevent further incidents like the downing of the warplane. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Shocking details have come to light in the first public report detailing the causes of the Java Sea AirAsia plane crash last December that killed all 162 on board. Investigators said that faulty equipment and airline's maintenance system was a major factor in the crash. The plane's rudder control system malfunctioned 4 times during the flight. And not just that, the fault had occurred 23 times the previous year. The report also added that the crew's response also contributed to the disaster. There were indications from the black box data recorder that the crew had tried to reset the rudder control system during the flight, causing the autopilot to disengage and remove automated projections that could have prevented an upset. Investigators had initially indicated that stormy weather was a major factor in the crash, which was not the cause. The AirAsia flight travelling from Surabaya to Singapore had crashed into the Java Sea on the 28th of December in 2014, killing all 162 people on board.
Penanganan selanjutnya oleh awak pesawat dan ketidakberhasilan mengendalikan pesawat pada alternate low menyebabkan pesawat keluar dari batasan-batasan kemampuan terbang yang mengakibatkan stall berkepanjangan dan di luar batas kemampuan normal pilot atau airline pilot untuk melakukan recover.
Now, on the second day of the climate summit in Paris, world leaders continue to debate ways to cut down carbon emissions. French President François Hollande announced investments worth billions for Africa, while US President Barack Obama met leaders of the Pacific Island nations to allay their fears.
Marathon meetings at the Climate Change Summit in Paris. US President Barack Obama held talks with leaders of Pacific Island nations, all of whom had expressed concerns that their very existence was at stake.
Financing has to reflect the unique needs of the most vulnerable countries in how it operates, and that those pledges have to be real.
For those of us whose survival, whose very survival is at stake, our plea is very simple. Let us give substance to the pledges that are being made. Let us not pay lip service to an issue that demands immediate and urgent action.
France will invest billions of euros in renewable energies in Africa in the coming years. The announcement came as French President François Hollande met heads of states from African countries on the sidelines of the summit.
Il y a une dette écologique que le monde, et en particulier le monde développé, doit régler à l'égard du continent africain. Une part très substantielle de notre effort bénéficiera à l'Afrique et notamment à l'électrification du continent sans même attendre 2020.
We are the most affected, especially countries around the Great Green Wall. It is for this reason that the African unified voice at this summit calls for legally binding instruments applicable to all parties within a global governance framework.
France and Mexico, along with the heads of the World Bank and IMF, urged other nations and big corporations to put a price on carbon emissions. They also launched the Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition initiative. Security remains tight in the French capital as more delegates arrived for the second day of the UN Climate Change Conference. The COP21 aims for a new agreement that will put the world on track to limit global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius over the next few years. After the failure of a previous summit in Copenhagen 6 years ago, a landmark agreement is expected this time around. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And now let's take a look at other stories from across the world in World Wrap. The United States has decided to deploy a specialized force in Iraq to build pressure on Islamic State militants in the region. U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter has said that the action will be taken in full coordination with the Iraqi government. The Specialized Expeditionary Targeting Force will assist Iraqi and Kurdish Peshmerga forces in carrying out raids, freeing hostages and capturing IS leaders. Turkey was hit by yet another blast on Tuesday, even as it continues to be on an alert. A pipe bomb blast went off near Istanbul's Bayrampaşa metro station in the height of the evening rush hour, injuring 5 people. Forensics sifted through the site searching for evidence. The train services were halted shortly following the incident. Sydney police conducted raids on 2 houses in connection to the shooting of police accountant Curtis Cheng in October. The raids were carried out under firearms legislation following suspected threats against a police station, but no items of interest were found. That's all we have for you on Breakfast News. Have a great day.